Have you ever looked at a property agreement and felt like you were trying to crack some kind of secret code? Yeah, you are not alone. Today, we are going full-on legal detective to figure out what really separates a lease from a license. And believe me, it's a difference that changes everything about your rights. So let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first, why should you even care about this? I mean, lease, license, what's the big deal? Well, whether you're a landlord who wants flexibility or an occupier who needs security, getting this wrong can have absolutely massive consequences in the real world.
And here it is in a nutshell. A lease gives you security. It's a powerful right in the land itself, which gives you some really strong legal protections. A license, on the other hand, is all about flexibility. It's basically just personal permission to be on the property, and that permission can be taken away much, much more easily. So yeah, the stakes are pretty high on both sides of the coin.
To solve this mystery, we have to think like legal detectives. We can't just trust what the document is called on page 1. No, we have to dig deeper, look for clues hidden in the substance of the agreement to figure out what it truly is.
And here they are, the 3 crucial clues we're hunting for. The law calls them the hallmarks of a lease. We're looking for exclusive possession, a certainty of duration, and something called consideration. Let's kick off our investigation with the biggest one of them all.
All right, our first piece of evidence, exclusive possession. Now this isn't just a clue, it is the clue. It's the single most important defining feature of a lease. If we can prove this exists, our case is pretty much solved.
So what exactly is it? Well, exclusive possession is basically the legal right to lock the door and say, "This is my space." It's the power to keep everyone else out, and yes, that includes the landlord. The key thing to remember is it's about the legal right to have that control, not just the fact that you're physically there.
Now I know what you're thinking. Hang on, my contract says license agreement right on the front page. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast. For a really long time, courts were super suspicious of labels, and to understand why, we need a quick look back at some fascinating legal history. So here's the wild part. The way the law looks at labels has done a complete 180. Back in the day, under the old Rent Control Act, landlords would try to get around giving tenants strong protections by calling their agreements licenses, even when they were really leases. So the courts got smart and started ignoring the labels. But today, things are different. That incentive to disguise agreements is gone, so the label is actually taken much more seriously.
But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. That label is only respected if the reality of the situation actually matches it. If you call it a lease, but the terms give the person living there total control to keep everyone out, a court is probably going to say, "Nice try, but that's a lease." At the end of the day, what the agreement does is always more important than what it's called. So how do we figure out the reality? We hunt for clues about control. You got to ask yourself these questions. Who really controls the keys and access? How much can the landlord just pop in whenever they want? Could they move you to a different unit tomorrow? Is your space clearly defined, or is it kind of vague? The answers to these questions will point you to the truth.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. If you've got your own keys, the landlord only comes in for specific things like repairs, and your area is fixed and defined, that's all screaming lease. But if the landlord controls all the access, is constantly involved in operations, and has the right to move you somewhere else, that's starting to look a whole lot more like a license.
Okay, detective, let's move on to our second big clue, certainty of duration. This is where property law gets really, really strict about time. An agreement can give you all the control in the world, but if it fails this one test, it just can't be a lease.
The rules sound simple enough. For a lease to be valid, you have to be able to know what the maximum possible duration is from the very first day. You can't just wait and see how long it's going to last. It needs a definite beginning, a definite length, and a definite end.
Let's make this real with some examples. For a term of 5 years, simple, certain, valid. But what about something like until the land is needed for road widening? Nobody knows when that will happen, so it's uncertain and therefore void. But look at this clever workaround. 99 years, terminable if the war ends sooner. See what they did there? The maximum term, 99 years, is totally certain, even if it might end early. That one works.
And this is the hardcore legal rule behind all of that. The law demands certainty right from the start, mainly to protect other people, like someone who might want to buy the property later. They need to know exactly what they're getting into. So what happens if an agreement fails this super strict test? Is it just game over? Well, not necessarily. the law has this clever little escape hatch. If someone is living in the property and paying rent regularly, say every single month, a court can often step in and say, okay, this is a valid periodic lease, like a monthly tenancy. It saves the agreement, but it also makes it way more flexible and easier to end.
Now, what's really interesting is that this strict, old-school rule is actually being challenged. In Singapore, for instance, a recent case took a more modern, common-sense approach. It focused more on what the two parties actually intended to do in their business deal. This has created a real tension in the law. You've got the old guard, with its rigid rules, versus a more flexible, modern interpretation. It's a legal debate that's still playing out.
Okay, we've gone through our first two major clues, exclusive possession and certainty of duration. Now it's time to check out our final piece of the puzzle before we can reach a verdict.
Our last clue is consideration. This is just a fancy legal word that means something of value has to be exchanged, because a lease is a type of contract. Now, most of us automatically think of rent, right? But that's actually a common mistake. A big one-time payment up front, called a premium, works just fine too. The main point is that something of value has to be given in exchange for occupying the property.
So here it is, your very own detective toolkit. To crack the code of any property agreement, you just need to run it through these 3 questions. 1. Do I have the ultimate right to control the space? 2. Is the maximum time I can be here knowable from day 1? And 3. Was something of value exchanged? You answer these and you'll find your answer.
So, with this new toolkit, I want to leave you with one final thought. Go back and take another look at your agreement, whether you're the landlord or the occupier. Now that you know what to look for, what did you really sign? Was it a lease or was it a license? The answer might just surprise you.